Hey guys, Thornton here, back with another video. This year we saw the release of a lot of great gaming mice. It's nice to have so many options available on the market. Today we're gonna be focusing on the wireless side and taking a look at some of the bigger companies' wireless flagship options with the Razer Viper Ultimate GPRO Wireless Superlight, Aerox 3, and the Model O Wireless. So a lot of good options here, different things to look at with each one. So we'll talk about those similarities as well as those key differences so you guys can make the best decision for yourselves. Price is probably going to be a big deciding factor for a lot of you guys here, with the Model O Wireless being $80, almost half the price of the $150 the Superlight will cost you. And then whereas recently we did see some price reductions with the Viper Ultimate and for the mouse standalone, you can get it for $100, the same as the Aerox 3, putting it a lot closer to where the Model O Wireless is sitting and giving a little bit more competition at that price point. For the rest of this review though, I'm not going to be factoring price into my opinion, just want to be talking about the mice alone, but obviously do realize there is a variation in price here overall. If you're not a fan of the honeycomb shell design, that's going to narrow down your choice a bit because both the Model O Wireless and the Aerox 3 both boast that honeycomb shell design. The Model O Wireless though, still really solid even with that design, which is nice to say for a glorious mice, with them having some issues with some of their previous models, but overall like pushing a lot of pressure on that top to bottom and the side panels, no creaking or button activation, and definitely a different story with the Aerox 3, and this is kind of foreshadowing for the rest of this review. The Aerox 3 definitely falls short in a lot of areas, this being one of them. Build quality wise, easily creak on it just top to bottom, and like I barely have to put any pressure and like the DPI button activates. Not the best build quality, a lot of creaking, flexing on the panels, definitely not what you want when you pull your mouse out of the box. So in comparison to these other options here, the Aerox 3 is definitely the weakest feeling. If you want that more solid shell experience, which I personally just prefer, feels more premium, the Viper Ultimate and GPRO Superlight are gonna give that to you. The most polarizing thing about the Viper Ultimate is just that you have those built-in rubber grips on the sides, which for those of you that don't like rubber grips, it's just something that you can't really change. So in the future, it would be nice to see them just include optional grips in the box rather than building in them into the mouse for those of you that don't like it. But besides that, both of these shells right here, really solid overall, definitely no creaking or flex in the solid ones. Weight on all four of these guys is decently similar, with the biggest outlier is gonna be the Razer Viper Ultimate being the heaviest at 74 grams. Even with that though, and it's not that bad if you're coming from a lighter mouse going to it. It's gonna take a little bit of time getting used to, but with the size and shape of it, it still feels great in hand after a few hours of using it. It'll be no different to you. The lightest of the bunch here is going to be that GPRO Superlight, coming in at 63 grams. And I have to say, in hand, it feels absolutely great. And you can even get it lighter than that by popping that puck out of the bottom, get it closer to like 60 grams. The thing just feels great in hand, really well balanced overall. It just feels different. Like you pick up the Superlight and it just feels really nice, premium, super lightweight, really well balanced. It feels great in hand, and the performance you get out of it is also great because of that lightweight overall. These ones, middle ground here, 66 grams for the Aerox 3, and then 69 for the Model O Wireless, still giving you that nice light performance. And just, you know, switching between these, like there's not a huge difference. The biggest difference you'll feel is going to the Viper Ultimate, but again, after a few hours of using any of these mice, you'll be super attuned to it and it won't be any issue. These are all wireless mice, so obviously you're not gonna be using with the cables very much. I'm just gonna kind of brush over these quickly here. Both of these are using micro USB cables on the Razer Viper Ultimate and the Superlight. Not a big deal. I understand that a lot of people want the USB-C, but you're only gonna be charging it, you know, every once in a while, few days, and probably not even while you're using it, although they can be used and charging at the same time if you're absolutely in that situation where you have to do that. The best cable out of the bunch is definitely gonna be on the Model O Wireless. The extended cable they included with this feels very paracord-like and very flexible if you do end up in the situation where you're using it with the cable. And then the Aerox 3 itself, also, horrible cable on this. If you have to use the cable, you're out of luck there. I would recommend looking into getting a paracord USB-C connector. Both of these are USB-C, by the way, so if you really are sold on wanting a USB-C cable, these do offer that to you. Take a look at the bottom of all these mice. You are gonna get PTFE in all of them. This is another big area of issue for me with the Aerox 3 Wireless. Just tons of scraping with these feet, and I think it's mainly due to the fact of how thin they are. When you're pushing down onto the plastic frame, just like scrapes along your mouse pad, and the feet also pick up things around them. The feet on these are just absolute trash, and if you're planning on picking this mouse up, it's definitely something that I would recommend switching right off the bat if you do get it. All the other skates though, they are decent. I would say the best of them is the Model O Wireless with those stock G skates. They do feel very nice. The Razer Viper Ultimate and the Superlight, their skates are okay and passable, but if you're gonna be spending this much money on a mouse already, I would just maybe look into getting some aftermarket skates, maybe some core pads or some Tiger Arcs, just to really get the most out of it, because there's definitely a big difference between stock skates and those really nice aftermarket ones. Just quickly touching on the sensors and all these are obviously all using optical sensors and super spot on for me so far. You're really hard pressed to find a mouse that has a bad sensor in it, and that's definitely been the case with these so far. Pixel for pixel tracking, no spinouts or faultiness overall. I'm really been enjoying my time as far as sensor use goes with all of these. Shape is always going to be a big factor in which mouse do you go for, and as I kind of mentioned always with these like flagship wireless options, when a company's designing, you know, an expensive mouse such as these ones right here, they're not going to choose a super polarizing shape that, you know, is going to either steer you completely away from it or draw you completely to it, because they want these to appeal as many people as possible so they can actually sell them. And it's definitely the case with all these being that around that medium ambi shape. They're going to be very receptive to most people. The only true ambi of them right now though is the Razer Viper Ultimate, because Logitech did remove the other side buttons, so if you are a left-handed user, the Razer Viper Ultimate will obviously be a pretty easy choice for you. The Razer Viper Ultimate and Model O Wireless are definitely the most similar of the bunch here, having nearly the same dimensions and feeling very similar in hand. The biggest difference here is just that the Model O Wireless is a bit wider in the grip, which fills out my hand a bit more, whereas the Razer Viper Ultimate is a bit more narrow in that grip, allowing me to get into a little bit more of aggressive claw grip, which I do enjoy, and I feel like it helps me in-game performance-wise. The GPRO Wireless Superlight is the one that definitely feels the largest in hand, and dimensions show that as well, having the highest hump and height out of all of them, though that's still going to work just fine for a claw grip, the fingertip style grip as well, though I do prefer a little bit more narrow as far as grips go. On other mice, this medium ambi style is still going to be really nice, and anyone's going to be able to find a comfortable position to grip on it. The Aerox 3 definitely has the smallest form factor of the bunch, having around the same grip width and height as the Razer Viper Ultimate, but being around 6mm shorter in length, which is definitely felt in hand and really does force me more right into that aggressive claw or a fingertip grip style with that smaller form factor. It does have a decently aggressive curves though, kind of flaring out towards the back, which I do really enjoy and help me lock into that claw grip. That was just a quick overview of the shapes there for you guys. Again though, these are all that around that medium ambi size, which is a very nice sweet spot. It's gonna work for almost any hand size as well as grip style. The Razer Viper Ultimate is the only one out of the bunch here that is taking advantage of those optical switches, so that's something you're looking for. You're only gonna find it there. The others are using all more traditional mechanical switches, with the Superlight as well as the Model Y using those Omron 20Ms, and then the Aerox 3 using those golden micro switches. But here's a sound test of them side by side so you guys compare for yourselves. So as not to have this video drag on, and definitely I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on each click individually on each mouse because it just takes too long to cover it. If you do want to watch it more specifically, I do have individual reviews on each of these, and I'll have it linked in the description down below. Just to quickly cover some of the highlights, most post-travel is found on the Model O Wireless and the Aerox 3, and then the most side-to-side play in your mouse 1 and 2 I experienced on the G Pro. All these changes or things I was experiencing as far as post, pre, and side-to-side play was nothing that actually affected me in game. It's just something that you can more so notice if you're actually paying attention and doing it deliberately with your hands. As far as side buttons go, the Aerox 3 Wireless, definitely don't like them. My least favorite side buttons of the bunch here for sure. They're just thin, come up to a point, and feel very awkward just where they're positioned and everything. Not a fan of them. If you've used the Rival 3 before though, it's the same exact side buttons, and it's something that you can get used to. It's just not preferred, and definitely something I'd like to see SteelSeries look into redesigning. As far as the other three though, more of that traditional, just a flat side button design. One unique thing about the Razer Viper Ultimate though is those side buttons are recessed into the frame, which is different and took a little bit of time for me to get used to, but as per usual, as humans, we can adapt to things. After a few hours of using it, it was no different. It's just different from other mice I've used before, so I like to point it out to you guys. Side buttons on the GPRO Superlight, definitely my favorite so far. Stick out a decent amount on the side, have a little gap of separation, as well as just being bigger and chunkier than the rest of them, which I do enjoy. The Model O wireless definitely has like the second smallest pair of side buttons, but even though they are on the smaller side, where they're positioned and my grip style, it landed really well for me and I did enjoy using them. Scroll wheel wise, the most loosely tensioned one is gonna be the Model O wireless, just being pretty free rolling. I like to see maybe a little bit more tension there. Most tightly tensioned Razer Viper Ultimate, which you might like, you might not like. It's like a ratchet wheel. You can definitely tell it's there, and the steps are super defined. Whereas with the Superlight and the Aerox 3, they're more in between that. You still get your nice like stages where you can tell where they're at, but they're not too loose and also not too tightly tensioned. As far as DPI buttons go, this is one thing that you'll notice the Superlight's actually lacking. That can only be changed within their software. Besides that though, the rest of the mice do have DPI buttons, which will obviously just change your onboard DPI storage, whatever you have it set to. Just to sort of wrap this up and give my final thoughts as well as recommendations, if you guys couldn't tell by the rest of the review, the Aerox 3 wireless, it just falls short in basically every area, especially in comparison to these other flagship wireless models. So it definitely is not a recommendation for me, especially when you're looking at these other ones. If you're trying to consider between them, it just doesn't deliver really in any spot. The only way I'd recommend it is if you just happen to absolutely love the Rival 3 shape and you want it in a more lightweight and wireless format, then I would recommend picking it up, but you're gonna have to do some aftermarket modding to fix things like those skates on the bottom. Besides that though, these other three, definitely recommendations. It's gonna come down to, more personal preference things on these. With the recent price reductions we've seen the Razer Viper Ultimate though, bringing it down to $100, a lot closer to the $80 of the Model O wireless. I would say that makes it a lot more tempting of an offer, and for me personally, those extra $20 would be worth it because I just like the feel of the solid frame. Again, though, this is a little bit more on the heavy side, so if you're someone that's really sensitive to weight in the mice, that might be an issue for you, but obviously the Model R is not too far behind it, just being around 4 grams lighter. The GPRO being the most expensive of the bunch. Again, though, this is not aimed at your average everyday Joe who hops on his computer, This is aimed at those top tier performance gamers, esports sort of stuff. So it makes sense why at the price it is. And again, like picking this thing up, you can just tell it's premium. Logitech was definitely not lazy with this. Feels great in hand. It's definitely super light, as the name implies, and really well balanced. I definitely felt like I performed best with the GPRO, and I feel like a lot of that was just due to the weight and how well balanced it was. Again though, these three options here, all great recommendations. The build quality is really solid, as well as click feel and performance in game, being decent lightweight and obviously giving you really top tier wireless performance. So hopefully some of these things, I can't tell you obviously which one to choose for yourself, but hopefully some of these things I brought up will help you narrow down your choice a little bit and make the decision that's going to be best for you. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you found it helpful or informative, please hit that like button for me and do consider subscribing for more tech content just like this coming up in the very near future. If you guys have any questions about the mice or just anything like comparing them together that I didn't really answer in the video the best, definitely leave in the comments down below and I'll try my best to get back to you quickly and also with the best response I can, but I'll see you guys in the next video.